You're listening to Keoni's podcast. Keoni. This is Michael Rosenbaum, Lex Luthor, and you're listening to Keoni's podcast.
Welcome back to another episode of Keoni Chats. So this episode is special. I mean, they're all special in their own unique ways, but this one's special because there's such a huge gap between the first time I met this person to when I interviewed them. So Albert Joo, or as most of you fans out there will know him as Flannel Albert. I got some questions answered during this interview, meaning I had a great middle school experience with him. So he's only a year younger than me, school-wise. So I had a great middle school time with him. I had a great freshman year, or I guess his freshman, my sophomore year. But then when I turned into a junior, he just vanished. But found out during this interview that he was taking the rest of his high schooling back in Korea. So selfishly, I was like, I wish I could have hung out with him more, or I wish he would have, spent the next 3 years of his high school with me at Sunset, because I feel like he and I got along very well. But nonetheless, during this interview, he talks about that time of being in Korea for school and just that whole experience, just being in a new country, even though it was his home country, but still, you're transplanting yourself. Your whole life is spent here in not just America, but in Portland, Oregon, and then you just go all the way to Seoul, Korea. So we talk about that, and the fact that, my God, when I think about Albert as a middle schooler / high school, obviously everyone at that phase of their lives were very confused, very unsure about what step to take first or second or third. But I really didn't expect him to make this kind of move and become the musician he is today, and what the musician he's always going to strive to be every day since. So very happy to hear about his journey there, and so this in-person interview, which is I'm striving for more opportunities to push my comfortability with interviewing, and this was another great opportunity. And Albert is not in Oregon a whole lot, but luckily I caught him as he was about to actually head back to LA, maybe a day or a couple of days after this interview, and sit down and chat with me about his life for about an hour and a half or so. So thank you to Albert. I know how busy your schedule is, and I know how busy you are just trying to always better yourself. So I always commend you on that one. And I think this is a great episode because not just because I got to talk with him again after not talking to him for a very long time, but just because how open he is about just the stereotypical Asian family and trying to break the standards and expectations of the parents set on him and try to become his own man. So I won't spoil any more of it. So check it out. Available on all podcast platforms and YouTube. But that because you're watching right now. So if you want to get in the loop as far as episode releases, I do post them on social media. So you could do that by following KC Media on Instagram and Twitter, and Conlu K Media on Facebook. So if you go to youtube.com and look up Keoni Chats, that's where the show can be found, the video version of it at least. And then during the video, you'll see in your lower right-hand side of the screen, you'll see a little tag for a website. So KeoniConlu.com for those listening. That's my personal website. I do try to keep it updated. Keyword is always trying, because sometimes it's the creativity on how you can make the website a little bit better. It can run a little dry at times. But so if you want to go to that website, and that is my personal website, where I do have also the audio versions of the episodes as well as the video versions in a different tab on that website platform. So check it out. I mean, no one else is going to plug that other than me. So I really got to do what I can to get it out there. So other than podcasting stuff on that website, I do take my camera out with me when I go out to nature, or if a friend wants to get some photos taken. So those can also be found on that website under the photos tab. And I dabble a little bit in writing. So, I do have a DC animated review series, 2021. We still have, at the time of this recording and release, at least 3 months until the end of 2021, which is, whoa. Progressing through all the films I need to watch. I think at this point, I still need to watch Batman The Long Halloween Part 2. I saw Part 1. Had some critiques about it, but also it's still very good. I mean, you can never go wrong. I love Marvel, but DC, I just love the storytelling and the grittiness of it all. So I hope you enjoy it too when you go check it out and read about it. And so I also love to hear your thoughts. So whether you want to leave a comment on the website or go on to social media and send me a direct message, I'm happy to respond. I want to talk with your fans. I want to talk with you guys. So, but yeah. So Albert, you can find Flannel Albert all over, I believe, on YouTube and also on all audio platforms. So Spotify, I wanted to say Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Apple Music. That's the one. You can find it on Apple Music. Check them out. And it's fantastic. It still blows my mind that I'm listening, that I'm sitting across. I mean, it's a little under 6 feet, but we're both, we knew the precautions. We did the precautions, but a guy who has his own Spotify playlist, that just still blows my mind. But so again, check him out on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, Flannel Albert, and he did speak about a new album that he was at the time of this release that he publishes out. So keep on the lookout for the name of that for that album, and hopefully that gets you to stick around to the end of the video. So however you are checking out this episode on whichever platform you prefer, or if you are watching on YouTube, I hope you enjoy my chat with Albert Joo, also known as Flannel Albert. It was weird. As I was waiting and kind of hanging out, because I got everything set up, I was feeling nervous. I was feeling a little anxious. I was not just the fact that
how come?
Not just the fact that it's the first time, or it's another in-person interview, and I want to make sure everything tech-wise goes well. It's just dude, I haven't seen you since high school. Yeah. Holy God. Oh, by the way, you can curse on this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Right?
No, it has been not even just since high school, since freshman year of high school. So it's been 13 years. Yeah. Probably, and it's not we really caught up or talked since then. I remember I think we were a little more than acquaintances in high school. I remember you fondly, and I think we hung out a couple times, and hung out in middle school.
Yeah.
But yeah, it has been a very long time
because we were only one school year apart.
Yeah, 1 grade apart.
1 grade apart.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do remember. I think we had Spanish.
Yeah.
I don't remember anything else other than that.
Yeah, probably in middle school we had a math class or something together. Sure. And then high school was Spanish with Mr. Everett.
Yes, that's the guy.
That class was such a fucking joke. No offense to Mr. Everett, he was a nice dude, but it was I remember it was the first class of the day. No one gave a shit.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah. And I think he was a very inexperienced. I think he was his first year teaching, and you could very much tell.
Super casual. I feel he was I feel there's a handful of teachers that try to relate to the students.
Yeah. And he was maybe he was one of them. Yeah. I just don't remember much from that class because I just don't remember doing much. But yeah, that was the one class I think, that we had together.
Yeah. But yeah, you kind of disappeared after freshman year.
Yeah,
your freshman year, my sophomore year.
Yeah, after freshman year, I went to Korea, and finished up high school there. I went to an international school, and then since then, I haven't really been back in Portland for an extended period of time. Like, I came back during the COVID thing, like last August, and I've been here for about a year now. I'm about to go back to LA, but this is the longest that I've been in Portland for a period of time since I left. I think spending a year here, because I would visit every once in a while, like over the summers. I would see certain people, but did not really spend much time here.
Has your class president reached out to you about a reunion?
Yeah, at all? Actually, yeah. I'm not gonna be able to make it because
isn't it Reese, right?
No. So I think Tyler Schultz was our class president.
That's right.
Tyler Schultz was in a fantasy basketball league with me this year, and then he just ghosted out of the chat when he lost. So shout out to him. But he's not planning the reunion. I think some other people took it upon themselves to plan it, and so they're having something at the end of August or beginning of September. But I'm going to be gone by then. Yeah. But I did get the Facebook invite. I was thinking of crashing it. Yeah. But yeah, I won't be here.
Hey, who knows? This could be the episode that people like that are in your class, because I have interviewed people that are about your age, with Jessica Ashman, for example. Yeah. And I know that.
Who was the last dude you interviewed?
Joe McNeil.
Joe McNeil. Yeah. Yes. I wasn't super close to him, but he was my year.
Yeah.
Jessica Ashman I've known since like first grade. Crazy. Yeah. Like second grade, first grade. So yeah.
Yeah, dude. And like for me, when I go visit like Eugene, where I went to college, it's like one thing that like, oh, I remember this building, but like they just renovated like a giant stadium, the track stadium. So I remember just all the like the historicness of the place, and then going back and seeing it, I'm just like, dear God, what is that? Because Sunset's gone through some, not like major renovations, but they got through some.
Oh yeah, it's funny because I drive by Sunset all the time these days, and I'm like, it still looks the same to me. Because, I mean, you look at, like, Westview and you look at Southridge, and they were always nicer. Yeah. And then you walk by, the field house is different, and that's about it. But, yeah, I haven't really gone in and looked. It's funny because I grew up here, and I attribute so much of my identity to Beaverton and Portland.
Sure, yeah.
But I went to Sunset for 1 year, and sometimes it feels like I went there longer than that, but like I really only spent 1 year there, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, because the person, the most recent, not counting yourself, person I interviewed in studio, she, her name's Tori, and she only used Sunset as like a bus stop, basically.
Oh yeah.
And then, but everyone she went to middle school with, it was there. So like, even when I talked to her, I was like, didn't you go to Sunset? She's like, no, actually, I never did. I just used the bus stop. I was like,
exactly. Yeah, because like even when you're like, I guess even at Cedar Park, like you'd go to Sunset football games because that was like the cool thing to do. So and then like my brother went to Sunset a long time ago. So since I've been in the area for so long, like I tell people, oh yeah, I went to Sunset for a bit, but yeah, I really only went there for a year. It's a good year though. It's fun.
Yeah. How's your brother?
He's good. Yeah, my brother is he's 7 years older than me. He's in New York right now. He's a doctor.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so he just moved there. Yeah, he's good.
Yeah, and then did you get pressured at all?
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Oh, but yeah, my girlfriend's family, like all of them are in the medical profession.
Yep.
Obviously, like there's that stereotype that Asians should be in the medical profession. Yep. How was dealing with that kind of stereotype and fighting that off?
Yeah, I mean, like, for the longest time, it was going to be like my brother was going to be the doctor and I was going to be a lawyer. Like that was just sort of instilled in me. And I want to say that my parents are different from like traditional Korean parents. Like I think they're more liberal in some aspects, but I think when it came to studying and academics, they were very much like, you should really, really try your best and become a lawyer. And so after I graduated college, I was actually studying for the LSAT, was like working and like was thinking, okay, yeah, I think I could do law school. But I just feel like my head wasn't really in it, and I took the LSAT a couple times, and I was like, no, this score is not really good, and I don't know if I want to do this. And now that I'm making money, I really want to give this music thing a shot. So like I remember having that conversation with my parents, and for the longest time, they really kind of were against it, and it was just I had to basically just be like, look, this is the decision I'm going to make, and I'm making my own money. Like, you guys don't have to support me in any way, but this is what I'm going to do for the next 3-4 years, see how that works out. And, if it doesn't work out, like, I will make my own decisions. And they like kind of relented, I guess. They were never really, it was always like a point of tension when I would talk to them. And I feel like I actually sort of grew further from my parents because of it. But now I'm about to go back to school to get my MBA, which they're happy about. They're happy about me going back to school, and ultimately I'm happy about too. I think I'm making the right decision now. So, if I had really just tried to grind and go to law school, yeah, maybe I'd be successful. Who knows? But I don't regret, I guess, the decisions that I made to bring me where I am today. In going back to school for my MBA.
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, I forgot to mention, I'm going to be taking some notes as you're talking. I was like, oh, crap, I should be doing something.
It feels like a therapy session.
That's kind of what this podcast is about, because I've dealt with some shit that I'm not, I had a hard time processing, like through a breakup. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, how do I cope with some of these things? So I'm going to talk with my friends or people I've encountered in my life and see how they
for sure
dealt with the same shit.
Yeah, and I mean, like, if you need a plug for therapy, like, therapy kind of brought me to where I am here with the whole like going back to school thing. Like, we can unpack all of that, but
and we will.
I was seeing a therapist for a bit, and that definitely really helped me. So go do therapy. It's expensive though.
It really is. Like, I did therapy for a while, and then I was trying to figure out, and once the resolution or the reason behind the therapy was, I feel like resolved, done, I was like, do I still need to? Because I feel like when I went to that first session afterwards, I was like, I feel like I'm kind of hanging out.
Yeah. So. Yeah. I think for some people, it's good to have even when you're doing well. And I think for others, when you don't need it anymore, you don't need it. Like, I personally don't right now. There will probably be a time in my life where I go back to it, at least for a little bit. Who knows? Yeah.
Because I've found out that, so my mother, who loves to listen to the show, again, love her to death.
Hi, Mom.
She was the one that kind of instilled my overthinkingness, my kind of anxieties towards some things. And again, she knows about this. She's actually thinking about going to see a therapist as well. Yeah. But, that's kind of, if I'm trying to go back, but I'm having a hard time because I also like, hey, I like to live. I like, this shit is expensive.
Yeah,
so
it is. It's not super cheap.
So, but for you, when you made that decision, you had that conversation with your family about not becoming a lawyer. Mm-hmm. How did you feel? Like, how was that kind of relief?
It was sort of liberating, I think. I think something that a lot of Asian kids and maybe just immigrant kids, or maybe just kids in general, experience is like a moment where you really separate yourself from your parents' expectations. And for certain people, they never really are able to let go of that subconsciously. It's always there. And I think for me too, maybe it is a little bit, but making that decision and it not being the end of the world was a little bit liberating. Like, oh, I can make my own decisions, and then, I will face the consequences, whether they're good or bad, but I can rest easy knowing it's my own decision. It takes me back. So when I was in college, I double majored in economics and music, and my senior thesis was in music composition. I composed like this, 7 or so songs in like different styles and performed them, and it was really, really cool. And I think in the back of my mind, my mom flew out to see it, and I think in the back of my mind, I had hoped that she would see the work that I put in and the product that came out of it, and she would be like, oh, I guess this is really what you want to do. Like, I give you my approval. Like, that was in my head the way that I wanted it to go. And then we were talking right after the show, and basically the first words out of her mouth after like, oh, it was good, blah, blah, blah. She was like, okay, so now that you've done this, you're all like, no more music, right? Like you've done all of it. Like you've gotten it out of your system. And I remember that really hurting. And we kind of got into like this argument. And to me, she said, if you had really, really, really wanted to pursue music, instead of going, you would have gone against me and Dad's wishes. You wouldn't have gone to college, and you would have just worked on that. Like, and I remember that being kind of a punch to the gut, because I was like, look, I came, I went to a pretty good college. Like I studied, like I did all the shit I had to do to get into college, partly because I wanted to fulfill your expectations and make you proud. Like, to me, but I realized after reflecting on it that what she said had some truth. Like, if you really, really, really wanted it, then you would have gone against your parents' wishes if you wanted it that much. And so that kind of ended up working against her, because then when I got into the workforce, I was like, okay, well, this is my time now. No matter what you guys say, I'm making my own money. I'm going to pursue music.
Yeah.
But like what she's saying is true. Like, that if you really, really, really want to do something, especially something as tough as music, you are going to have to, like, you need to know that you want it that much. Yeah. Because if you don't want it that much, there's absolutely no way you're going to succeed. Yeah. Because it's so competitive. So it was an important lesson. Obviously now, like, I've done it for 5 years, 3, 4. I don't know exactly, and then I'm going back to school. So, sometimes my parents are like, oh, don't you regret wasting 3, 4 years trying that, and then you're going back to school anyway? And I don't really see it that way. I think there are experiences that I had through it that cannot be replicated anywhere else. Like, I've gotten to do a lot of cool things. I've gotten to learn a lot about myself, meet really, really cool people. And so I think it's shaped who I am. So I don't really have any regrets.
I feel like the Asian family hold, they do have a lot of backhanded compliments.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
It's like, oh, you did great. But
yeah.
It's like, oh, God, I can never please you.
And sometimes I wonder if it is really that, like, they just want you to keep working hard. And sometimes I feel like it's superstition, because I don't quote me on this, but I feel like I was reading a book,
you're quoting yourself by this is recorded, by the
way. Forgot there's a podcast. No, like, I feel like I read somewhere that in like Korean culture or like East Asian culture, it's like a superstition thing where, like, if everything's going too right, like, something might go wrong. So that's why, like, they're like, oh, this is good, but you don't brag about it. Like, don't be too proud of your accomplishments, because that's when like the demons come and get you, like that kind of thing. So I think maybe it comes from that as well.
So I'm also wondering this, because, like, you and I we talked about movies just like now, because now we can see, because I actually just moved the couch so we can see a little bit of comic book behind you. But we love movies. I feel that the Asian family hold does get a little bit. It does get that stereotype of, like, you follow the rules, you follow the way that we set for you, and if you don't, you're excommunicado.
Right.
Basically. I feel like some part of that also does, build up, and at least in our generation's minds, about, like, when we want to go against our parents.
Exactly. Yeah, and some people are better at just cutting that off than other people. Like, it's tough. It depends on the family, and it depends on the person. Yeah. Like, I think that my family, my parents, they might like say they would do that, but I don't think they ever would.
I don't think so either.
But at the same time, I don't want to push that. I don't want to test that. So I think deep down, like, there is a little bit of still attachment to the family, and like wanting to make your parents happy, because there's a whole idea of sacrifice, right? The sacrifice that your parents made, whether it was to move here or to work however many jobs to put you in the best position possible. And like, you do feel like you have to repay that in a sense.
Yeah. Like, so I was telling you before we started recording, I'm like, I went through a breakup, and I also mentioned earlier in the podcast, and people have been listening to the podcast or watching, they know about this breakup, but it was one that did cause a lot of tension in the family, just because she was very much the dramatic, she thrived on drama. So, she's like, oh, my sister just like basically axed me out of the family, and then she allowed drama, and I was just like, this just seems unnecessary. Yeah. It's like your family should be there even if they royally piss you off. And this relationship did cause my family to royally get pissed off at me. So
Right.
Yeah. At me, I'm still here.
Was she Asian?
No.
Oh, okay. No. Yeah, I mean, families are tricky. Especially Asian families. Like I feel like more often than not, maybe it's because I have more insight on Asian families and Asian friends, but like there is shit that goes down in Asian families quite a bit. So like it would be nice if family could always be a support system, but I know that not everyone is super fortunate in that regard. Yeah, which is unfortunate. But when you went to Korea for school your sophomore year, did you have family back home, or did you just kind of go on your own? No, I went because of my family. So my parents moved there when I was in 8th grade. So when I was still going to Cedar Park, and during my freshman year of high school, I was staying with like family friends. And then after my freshman year, I could have stayed, but I sort of missed my family, and I was like, if I'm going to go to college, I want to spend some time with my parents. So the reason I moved to Korea was to be with them. And so how do you feel about that decision? Because that's a big decision. It's a big decision. Again, I don't really regret it at all. I thought it was a really, really cool experience. It definitely made me appreciate just like my parents' culture more, and just Korean culture. Sometimes I think like, I think it would have been nice to finish my 3 years at Sunset. Like it looked like everyone was having a blast, and it looked like a good time. And I like Portland as a city, but I also am thankful for like just the opportunity to live in another country when you're that young. And yeah, it was just really cool. And Korea's it's a ton of fun. Food's great. Good nightlife. And to meet people, I went to an international school, so to meet people that had been around the world was cool. I got to travel to Singapore and to like Spain and stuff. So those are really cool opportunities as well. Did you have a moment where you're just like, I miss Portland? Oh yeah, all the time. Yeah, all the time. I would miss Portland quite a bit because I had so many close friends here. But comparing Seoul to Portland, they're just so different. Like everything was so like my school in Korea was 80 kids a grade. It was super small, pretty homogenous, mostly Korean kids that had like been around the world. So, but still all Korean. So it was totally different. And sometimes I missed hanging out with friends that like maybe understood American culture a little bit better. Like I was considered a foreigner at my school, even though I was ethnically Korean. Like there were not many kids that had been born and raised in the United States for as long as I had been. Yeah. So, there was that. Yeah, that made me miss Portland a little bit, and just like seeing the fun that everybody was having over here. But again, no regrets. So that language immersion too, because like you were in America for a good portion of your life. Yeah. English was pretty much the primary language you spoke outside of your household. Right. So what was that like, getting to the classroom and then they just start going off? Well, no, I went to an international school, so you had to speak English. It was like set up. It was like a AP. Like it was basically like an American school in Korea. In fact, you would get in trouble if you spoke Korean, because they were really trying to, they were trying to make it an American school, basically. Wow. And it wasn't on like some racist shit or anything like that. It was just like parents' kids were paying for them to get an American education. If everyone was speaking Korean, that would sort of defeat the purpose. Yeah. So the whole English only rule was good for me. Were you thriving? You're like, because my Korean sucks, and everyone knew that my Korean sucked. Like I would like try to speak Korean with my friends and they'd be like, dude, just speak English. Like it's fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was not that much of a culture. It was still a culture shock because it was still Korea, but the language barrier wasn't there.
Okay, because I knew when I was learning, I had to learn like learning Spanish for me in middle school, high school, college. Yeah. It was so difficult because I just wanted to pronunciate every single word. Yeah. And then I think we had like maybe a short like week or two course about Spanglish, how you can incorporate some Spanish into your English, and I was like, oh my God, I'm thriving in this one part. Oh, jeez.
Dude, that's the thing though, is like back on the topic of Spanish and my freshman year Spanish class with you is like compared to the Spanish that I learned in Korea, like for some reason my Spanish program there was very, very intense. Like I got pretty good at Spanish.
Really?
And like the pronunciation there is also really, really good because the Korean language pronunciation and the Spanish language pronunciation stuff, like phonetically, it's very similar. So like people don't have like the whole gringo accent over there. So I was forced to shape up super quick. And like I was pretty good at Spanish when I was over there. But yeah, sorry, that was just a tangent.
Tangents are welcome.
Yeah. But do you speak any other languages besides English?
I mean, I can try, not well. And barely, because my brother, the native language for the Philippines, I mean, we have like a bajillion different dialects, but like the main one my family focuses on, it's called Tagalog. So it's for people that are like, how do you spell that? Just think of like tag-along, like the cookies, but like more emphasis. Yeah. So like my brother got like these flashcards that like very basic. I'm just like, God damn it, I should be doing that.
But so Tagalog though, it incorporates some Spanish, right?
Yes, because they conquered the Philippines. So, you know, it's an awesome feeling.
Yo, Korea too has had its fair share of. I saw a meme today, and it was like the 4 continental horsemen of being like bullshit, like being conquered and stuff, and it was like Philippines, Korea, Paraguay, and Poland. Like they're always like in the middle of some shit that's going on.
Which is why I feel like I feel more connected to you.
Yeah, because both of our countries have been conquered. Yeah.
So as far as one thing I was thinking about as you're talking about your time in Korea, it's like politics. How involved were you when it came to that? There's a follow-up question to that, but it's just like
not very. I mean, were any of us really involved in politics in high school? I don't know. No. For me, it was like liberal good. Barack Obama seems like a cool guy, so everyone likes
right?
So and in Korea it was even more that like no one really cared about Korean politics. I think we at school would watch like the election coverage, and that this was back when Obama was getting elected to his first term. And like, you know, we didn't really know anything. We were like, yeah, like Barack Obama seems cool. Like, so politically not really involved. I don't really keep up with politics in Korea. I know that there's been, I mean, it's kind of a mess over there politically, but I don't really want to speak on it because I don't really know that much about it.
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of like Conan, the Conan O'Brien show.
Yeah.
Where he and like Stephen Yeun, they're in like Korea, and then they're at the buildings
DMZ.
Yeah. I was like, have you like gone by there? Have you seen it?
I haven't. I mean, it's somewhere you can visit. The general feeling though in Korea about that is even when there are like threats from North Korea and like American news is going crazy, nobody in Korea really cares because it's been like that. It's been like all these false threats for so long. So it's not that big of a deal as far as I know. Never really talked about it, but I will say one great thing about going to school in Korea is like we had an Asian studies class.
Ooh.
Where like we learned more about the history and like we learned about Japanese occupation in Korea and like, you know, more about China and just like East Asia in general. And I think that's something I wouldn't have gotten going to Sunset. And like I'm really glad that I got that education.
Keoni Chats is probably sponsored by Cove Hard Yerba Mate. Josh Meckler is a good friend and former guest of the show. And after his episode where he came on and talked about the origins of Covey, I was very curious as to what the heck does yerba mate even taste like? So after I went to the grocery store and grabbed that yellow can, I took the sip, understood, got the baseline understanding for it. And then I asked myself, what does it taste like with alcohol in it? So a little bit after his episode, he was very gracious enough to send me a pack with all 4 of his flavors. All 4 of those flavors being lemonade, a berry, a mojito, and a mango colada. So I loved all 4 flavors one time or another, just because I didn't like down all 4 of them at once, because that's just a lot. But no, it's I love citrus, so it really spoke to that kind of flavor lover in me, and also helped me loosen up a little bit. I mean, granted, right now we're about to head into fall, so it's beer season or pumpkin season or whatever season it is, but it's I think hard yerba mate is an every season kind of drink. So if you are interested in trying some of Covey's hard yerba mate, go to hardyerba.com, hardyerba.com, and scroll around, make a cart, put a little bit of this flavor, put a little bit of that flavor, maybe put it in a shirt or a hat. And before you check out, use the discount code Keoni Chats Covey, KEONICHATS for 25% off your total purchase. That is huge. To the people at Covey and Josh, thank you so much for the discount code and giving the fans of the show a good incentive to go get some of your products. So check it out. You must be 21 years and over to purchase any alcohol from Josh and Covey. But if you want to use a discount code for some shirts or hats, go for it. Perfect. And everyone, please enjoy responsibly. Okay, so yeah, like obviously Conan O'Brien, comedic guy. So like he was kind of making fun of like the back and forth, that table that's like separated Korea, North Korea and South Korea. Yeah, I was like, oh damn.
Yeah, but I think maybe it's because I like Conan, but I think like I don't think that was.
It's never.
I mean, sure, it's a tense situation, but I don't know. Again, maybe I don't know as much as I should because I'm Korean American, but I don't know that Koreans really stress about the whole North-South thing.
I mean, I'm Filipino. I barely know anything about the Philippines. Yeah. It's just because like we're busy with our own lives, and we're trying to like make a living here.
Exactly.
So it is unfortunate that like the joke about like, oh, I'm pretty whitewashed because like I don't know much about my culture or like I don't have the dialogue or anything like that. It kind of stings.
Yeah. Well, does it sting more when you hear that you're whitewashed from like Filipinos or from like non-Filipinos?
I think when it comes to like, like some friends joke about it. It's like, oh yeah, totally I am. Is it because I can talk in complete sentences? I don't know what it means.
Right.
But it's just like I do. It just as I'm getting older, I'm just like, it does kind of make the thought in the back of my head like I should really learn more about my culture a little louder. That's really what that is for me. What about for you?
Yeah, I think exact same thing for me is that as I grow older, I am more in tune with my Korean culture. Maybe it's because I don't know. I just feel like as I get older, I'm more aware that I'm Korean.
Yeah. Some of these tendencies you do.
It's like tendencies, and it's the things that I relate to and the things that I connect with. And a lot of my friends I talk to feel the same way. And you also see it with people that like, because, I think at Sunset and even before Sunset, like when I went to Cedar Mill and Cedar Park, I was considered kind of a whitewashed Asian. Like I didn't really hang out with other Koreans, except like at church. And I just kind of accepted that and maybe even embraced it a little bit because I thought it made me unique for whatever reason. But I think it's because as you grow older and you meet other Korean people, like I can't separate myself from my life at home. Like that's always going to be there. So when I meet another Korean person that can immediately relate to that, there's automatically connection, and there's like a deeper connection that I can't necessarily get with other people. And so I think coming to that realization has made me more has had me embrace my Korean culture more. And like Korean culture is great. Like there's parts I love about it, there's parts I don't love about it, but at the end of the day, I'm very, very proud to be Korean. And like, yeah, as you get older, you just realize that you have a kind of an unbreakable connection with it, I guess. Yeah.
So, I mean, I can't not ask this about dating when it comes to like, I mean, granted, I don't think you were dating when you're like a freshman in high school or.
Oh, I was dating.
Oh,
come on, man.
Cool. There it is.
No.
But like, when you started getting to your adulthood in Korea, and then you started, dating other Korean women or other just like non-white women, like when you didn't, how was that trying to like switch that over to when you moved back to Oregon? Because we don't have a whole lot of diversity here.
Yeah, I mean, I think, back at that age, I think in general, I was never really looking for a specific ethnicity or race to date. Yeah. And I think that might be different from other Korean people. There might be Korean people that only want to date other Koreans. But, back then I was a teenager. So I was like, oh, this girl is attractive and likes me. Like, let's go. Like, but I think truth be told, as I get older, with the whole embracing Korean culture thing and realizing my Koreanness, and also just thinking about long term, like it's going to be nice to just like have my future wife be able to communicate with my parents and like understand the customs and understand the culture. By no means do I not support interracial marriage. I think it's great. And I think that it is one of the ways to solve racism in the world is just for everyone to have mixed babies. But I think that realistically, I'll probably end up marrying a Korean person. Yeah.
I know it's for a while, like the longest time I was dating, just the Caucasian white women because like that's what I see every day. It's like because this is not a mystery to people. It's like Portland is not super white. Yeah. So that's just like the type of woman I was dating for a while. And then like recently, like, oh, I dated Mexican, and then I dated still a white person, but she was Irish. It was a different culture, but it's like now I'm dating someone Asian. Now it's like it does have a stronger connection for me at least. Yeah. It's like, if you don't know about the Filipino culture, some things about
right. If you're from an immigrant family, then you'll understand some of the things and yeah. And again, I truly believe that two people from totally different backgrounds can connect.
Of course,
it's possible, but yeah, for me, it's like even the superficial stuff, like just being able to joke around in Korean and like that kind of stuff, and know that you like the same food. I think that's kind of it's a head start, I guess.
Yeah. So you better watch out, ladies of LA. So tell me about the decision to come back to Oregon, or just come back to America.
Well, I mean, from Korea, like I knew I was gonna go to college in the U.S. Like that was 100%. So I was only in Korea. I went to an international school. I was just there to be with my parents, and then.
Are they still there? Or are they back here?
They split time. They go back and forth. Yeah. So I went to college on the East Coast. I was in New York for a little bit after college, working there, and then I moved to LA. And then COVID hit. I was applying to business school. So at that point, since work was all remote and I knew I'd be going to school, my parents were like, "Why don't you save money? Come up to Portland. There's nothing for you to do in LA anyway because it's closed." So it was really just COVID fueled the reason for me being back up here. But it's been great. Like it's been my one chance to explore Portland as an adult since I left. So, I've been trying as much food and beer and stuff as I can. It's been nice.
Bar scene is sort of coming back.
It's coming back, and like when I first got here, I didn't even really care about the bars. Like I would just do a bunch of takeout to see, and like get beer from breweries and stuff. Mm-hmm. So that's been cool. I think I think I'm no longer, because Portland started to get cool like right after I feel like maybe we graduated high school. Everyone around the world was like, oh, Portland is like so dope. And people would be like, oh, you're from Portland? Like, can you give me some recommendations? And I was like, no. I grew up in Beaverton and I left when I was 16. Yeah. But now I feel like I have my bearings. I feel like I can be a cool Portlander.
Yeah.
And recommend.
I don't know if you knew, or I mean, like while you were gone in Korea, like the show Portlandia.
Exactly. Yeah. Everyone's like, oh, is Portland like Portlandia? And I'm like, I don't know. I haven't watched it, but probably I hear it's pretty accurate.
Yeah. Like I watched, I think they had maybe like 4 or 5 seasons or something like that. You know, still single digits, but like I watched on air like up until like the second to last season, and then I kind of stopped just because like it was getting so weird. Yeah. It was getting so weird. I was like.
Also, like, we grew up in Beaverton, man. It's different. Like, Beaverton is pretty vanilla, like, just suburbs. So it's different.
So adjusting to that kind of life where, like, in Korea and Seoul, you know, very hustle and bustle. And then Beaverton, vanilla, slow down a little bit. How was that for you?
So are you asking about the transition from Beaverton to Korea, or
from Korea to Beaverton? Back to Beaverton.
Korea. Okay. Yeah. So, cause like, between Korea, like the college I went to, super small town. New York is obviously more like Korea than it is like Beaverton. LA is like kind of a mix of both. But I mean, it was COVID anyway. So even if stuff is like slow, like everything was slow. I think definitely it was peaceful. It was nice. Like it was nice to be around nature and all that stuff. But I think I would rather be in a big city when everything opens back up.
Yeah.
To be quite honest. Yeah.
I know it's
more to do, more people to meet. And there's, especially a place like New York, there's something for everyone. If you are into like clubbing, like there's stuff for that. If you are into just going to museums by yourself, like I am, then there's places for that. So like whatever you want to do is accessible. In Beaverton, even Portland, if it's like a Friday night, like there's not near the list of options that you would have, I think, in a bigger city.
Which is true. Yeah. I mean, I'm never going to hold a candle against like even Seattle. It's like there's no way.
I think I like Portland better than Seattle, but maybe I haven't spent enough time in Seattle. But
I mean, like I'm starting to make a little bit more trips up there, and I mean, I'm just thinking like Seattle is a big city because it has like sports team, like a bigger like an NFL
I think
team.
It's bigger than Portland.
So sure. So I'm like, I mean, sure, the nightlife for now. You better watch out, Vancouver, Washington.
Yeah, I'm gonna eat you up.
We'll eat you up. And I'm actually like, I'm going. So my first time in New York, I went probably 2018, maybe 2018, I think. And my brother, he was working for Doc Martens at the time, so he was in New York opening up a store. So for like a week, and then the last like weekend, he's like, "Oh, I'll take you to like a football game. I'll take you to the Jets versus the Patriots. I'm a Patriot fan."
Yep. So
the pillow. And when we landed, I was in sweatpants because obviously it was kind of like a late flight because I wanted to be relaxed. And then we went straight to like a club, and then I got denied entry to this club just because I was wearing like Nike, like kind of a little bit tight, little meshy, like running pants. Yeah. So like, nope, you can't wear that, bro. So I was like, that was my first like real life experience.
But that happens at some places in Portland, right? Like you can't wear Nike pants to anywhere, like to everywhere. There's probably a few. Yeah. Upscale, but no, I know what you mean. Like that's kind of just how.
I don't think you can wear Nike track pants to like the Nines, the one like right next to actual Nike.
Oh. Yeah.
So it's like whatever. So when it came to, you know, your music scene, because that is something that is part of your identity.
Yep.
Did you start working on your, like, what was the first song you like remember thinking about writing? Like, what was your inspiration behind that one? Because you've been doing it since like 2017.
Yeah, but I've been making music since I was like just a young boy, like
just a young lad.
I mean, because I always played classical piano. Like that's how I started in music. Like I used to do competitions and stuff in Portland.
Your dad was a guitarist, right?
Yeah. How do you know that?
That article I mentioned.
Oh,
I got to about halfway through, and then I was like, I remember that was mentioned in there. So I'm not. Yeah, I mean, it's always.
No,
fun
I was very impressed. I was very impressed. Yeah, and I started just kind of like playing around with music, kind of more like popular music, because like when I went to church, I was part of like the worship band, so that was more like rock band type stuff, and that's where I started playing like keyboards and like learned guitar and drums and stuff. And the first ever song I wrote was, I want to say in 8th grade.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote it for a girl I was dating at the time, Bree Connolly. Shout out, Bree Connolly. Yeah, I think that was the first song that I ever wrote. And then from there, I just I would do it. Like I was very into like the whole Asian YouTuber thing that was very big back when we were like early high school.
Did you say you want to be like the Korean Drake in your Tinder profile?
yeah, that was one of my old Tinder bios. So yeah, like back then, that's when like they were doing a lot of singer-songwriter stuff. So I like would play guitar and piano and sing and write. And then when I went to Korea, like I just kind of did more of that and like made like this really shitty album that I used to apply to colleges. Of kind of just like pop music. And I was kind of a late bloomer to like the whole hip hop thing. I think I probably started getting into hip hop in freshman year of high school at Sunset, but I like really got into it. And right around the time when there were a bunch of Asian singer-songwriters on YouTube, there were also a bunch of Asian rappers. And so I would listen to them, I would watch them and be like, I think I can do this. And so slowly started doing that throughout college, and then really decided to start taking it seriously. I want to say, like 2017.
So that article I was talking about earlier where I mentioned that your dad was a guitarist, it's called, where was that? I had it written down.
Is it the Hip Hop KR one?
Yeah, Hip Hop KO. There you go.
KR, yeah.
Hip Hop KR.
Sai, my friend Sai did the interview. Shout out Sai.
There you go. Hip Hop KR, it was done in February 2018.
2018. Yeah, that sounds right. That was... Yeah, and she did another interview with me, I think, December 2019, but she's just such a great interviewer. So those two.
I mean, until you met me. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, the article was like, it was in depth. It was great. I mean, I got like halfway through, but there was a line that you said that kind of, brought up some questions where you said that in college, you were in an a cappella group where you sang a lot of Stevie Wonder, Smokey Robinson. Yeah. So when you got into that group, what was your mindset towards your singing abilities?
That I was not a very good singer. I've never really considered myself a singer. Like I think I'm someone that can sing, but I don't think of myself as a technically good singer. But yeah, like hearing someone like Stevie, I don't know if I'm more impressed by his singing or his songwriting or just like his stage presence, but I think that era of music is so incredible. I was about to say underappreciated, but I don't think it is underappreciated. I think people love it because it's just it's so heartfelt, it's so catchy, while still having like a level of depth and complexity to it. And so learning more about and the one thing that entire era of R&B has in common is like it really has this innate groove. It like seems effortless, but it's just so infectious. So and I think my musical style just in general is centered around being catchy, regardless of what I'm writing. So that was really a huge influence on me. Stevie Wonder, we did like Earth, Wind and Fire, even like not necessarily R&B artists, like we did like James Taylor and I don't know what you would classify that as, maybe just like 1980s pop rock, but just it was all centered around being catchy.
Yeah, and that's the impression I got, because I worked my way from the earliest song you have on Spotify. I worked my way up. I didn't get completely all the way caught up, but I did also hear your top hits that I was thinking that was the only song they ever made. Like, there's no way. There's no way. But yeah, like I was listening, and then it did make me think of, because I do also listen to like some Kid Cudi. I've listened to Tyler the Creator once in a while, and then Chance the Rapper, where it's not like, you're not too much of like, I'm going to tear down the house and like this is gonna be the next like club hit. You're very much like, I just want you to enjoy yourself but also think. Yeah,
I think that is. I mean, first of all, thank you for putting me in the conversation with those artists. But yeah, I think definitely like those are some of my bigger influences. Because I think there may be artists that can present a version of themselves that is totally different from who they are in person. I just can't do that. And so I think there will always be a level of earnesty in what I write. Like you're always going to be able to sort of trace it back to me. Sure, I exaggerate certain things, and there's like a level of braggadocio that is present just like everywhere, like in all hip hop songs. But I think you'll be able to still see me underneath all that. So that's sort of always been my aim with my music, is to be relatable, I guess, to an extent.
And what's interesting is like going back to that article, because again, I read like the first half because it's a long article. It's a long one. You said a lot of things, but the one that really kind of stood out to me is like when they talked about the AOK video. Yeah. Where I think you mentioned that you're in the middle, obviously that you're at a table, you have some friends on the side, and then like in the article it said that you are isolated, and then you talk about you being an introvert. What is that like to be an introvert but want to have to be in this profession where you have to
constantly be around people and always be on? It's a little bit tiring, and it's not just in music. Like this is something I realized about myself recently, or not even recently. I think even when I was writing AOK, it helped me realize that I think that I'm a pretty sociable person. I think I'm outgoing, but it can also be a little exhausting for me, because by nature, I think I like to make people feel comfortable. I like to make people feel welcome. I'm sort of a performer, and so I'm around people, like I have to be on, like, and that can take a lot of effort, right? Like, I really like doing podcasts and stuff because I like talking about myself. I like having conversations. Yeah. But what you're seeing of me right now is a little bit different of if I'm just totally home by myself. Like I'm not being fake right now, but to an extent I'm putting on a performance. And I think that people that are always like that, like it's very exhausting. I think that's why so many comedians tend to struggle with anxiety and depression, or performers in general. It's because like you feel like you have to be on, and you feel like you have to entertain, and you feel like somebody always has to get something out of whatever reaction or whatever interaction that you're having. And that can be kind of tiring. So AOK was sort of about that. AOK was reconciling how I am just deep down, just like a suburban kid from Beaverton. Like, do I really fit? Like, it was a lot of things, but I wanted the music video to kind of send that message, because there are parts of it where I'm really having fun, and then towards the end you see me sort of tire out, and that was sort of the idea behind that.
And so, at this time, it's like, in the late afternoon of a Monday, where's your mind at right now? Because obviously, like, if we weren't having this interview right now, I'd probably be like working on an episode or doing this. I do have to work tomorrow, so it is kind of hard for my mind to at least partially, like, my focus is here. Yeah. But like 90% of it's here.
Right. Where's your mind at right now? Weren't doing this right now, honestly. But what I'm actually going to do after this is I have some summer coursework that I have to finish up for school. So I'm probably going to go to a cafe or a bar and just like work on like Excel stuff. And like, I got to eat. But before that, like, I just finished my album that I'm going to come out with in 2 weeks. I just finished that last week. But if I hadn't finished that, like, I'd be working on that. If there was an NBA game on tonight, I'd probably watch that. Like, I do enjoy, very much doing stuff by myself.
Yeah. So most likely by the time this episode airs, your
album will be out. Yeah,
What's
so
the
go
name
check
of your
out
album?
the album if you haven't already.
Yeah. What was the name? One more time. Sorry, I interrupted you. What's the name of your album again?
Oh, it's called Summer 2017 is Over. It really came together in the last month and a half, I want to say, because I had a bunch of loose songs that I'd worked on over the years that I really liked but hadn't finished, and I was like, okay, I'm about to go back to school, so I'm not going to have time in school to finish these. Let me just try to crank these out. And I was feeling super inspired and got it done last week. I'm pretty proud of myself. Submitted it on Friday, and so it'll be out on July 30th. And actually, the lead single from it is dropping tonight in less than 2 hours. Yeah.
Yeah, because, okay, so I was going to ask you about that when it came to looking, obviously I was scrolling through your profile on Spotify, which, again, it's kind of crazy to think, to say, like, I'm interviewing someone that has a pretty high profile view on Spotify. So, give me a second. Yeah, a lot of your albums that, you click on, it was just single releases or maybe like up to 3 releases. What's the plan behind that one?
Yeah, so that's really how the music industry has shifted with streaming culture and stuff. There's just less emphasis on full albums because I think the listener's attention span has decreased, and there's just not as much appreciation. I think for people that love music, like, you do want to see Tyler the Creator come out with a full cohesive project. Mm-hmm. Like that, like an album that's meant to be listened to as a unit. Like, it's really nice to have that, but especially when you're first starting out, right, and you're just trying to get your name out there, it makes more sense to put effort into singles that you think will get a fair amount of plays, right, and just release them one at a time to slowly build up your audience. Because if I put out a 10-track album and nobody knows who I am, that's kind of 10 songs that I've wasted by just releasing at one point. It's not the artistic way to do things, but from a strategy point of view, it makes a lot more sense. So that's what I was doing for a while. But then now that I'm going back to school and, like, I don't really care too much about how many plays this next album gets, I just wanted to get it out there. Then that's why I was like, okay, I'm just going to make this an album. And it's cohesive enough. All the songs, they all fit together well enough, I think, for it to be considered like an album. So yeah.
So one of your songs I listened to, it was called Dose.
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 Yeah.
Dose. Again, Spanish, and he wants to pronounce every single one.
Say 12.
There was a little bit of Korean in it, but, we talked earlier, obviously, your Korean is not as sharp as some other Koreans are. Yeah. So what was the thought behind creating that song? Yeah.
So the Korean, first of all, in that song wasn't by me. It was by another artist by the name of Lately. And he, I think, is comfortable writing in Korean and English, so he incorporates Korean quite a bit. So, I mean, I really just gave him creative freedom to do whatever he wanted on his verse. I did all my stuff in English. Would I ever write a song in Korean? At this point, probably not, because I don't feel like I can express myself beyond, like, a 3rd grade vocabulary. And so
there's a market for that.
Yeah, right. I mean, I guess, but I think even if I'm trying to just write a song to get plays or write a song, like, I still want to be able to express myself to some extent. Yeah. So I think it'll be in English. I have a song idea, which now that I'm going back to school, I don't know when it's going to come out, but I sort of, when I produced it, I sampled myself singing a phrase in Korean. Mm-hmm. And then I'm using that for the beat. So I'm getting more open to it. But that was really just more of I want to embrace my Korean culture a little bit, not actually start writing stuff in Korean, because I can't.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can say, like, the dog is over there and, like, where's the bathroom? But
you just have them on loop.
Just make a banger, with those, with, like, very basic sentences.
We'll call Skrillex up. Hey, guys. Yeah. And I think that's admirable. I think that's awesome that you want to get back to your culture, because, we just talked about whitewash earlier again in the conversation, but it's like, you get points for trying. You'll get points for trying.
And it's an interesting subject, because if you talked to me 3 years ago when I first started, I was very adamant on being like, first of all, I don't really speak Korean. Like, I appreciate Korean culture, but I don't want to be known as a Korean rapper. Like, that was my mantra. Like, I want to be the first, like, make it big and, like, not be considered a Korean rapper. And that's slightly shifted a little bit. Like, I do want to be known as a Korean rapper because I'm a Korean person. I don't rap in Korean. I don't sing in Korean, but, like, it is possible, I think, in today's day and age, it's getting more and more possible for someone who is Asian to be able to succeed on a wider scale without sacrificing their Asianness, like without having to hide it, which I think is amazing. And, you know, I don't necessarily think it's going to be me anymore, but I think that hopefully in 5-10 years, we are in a place where somebody who is unapologetically Asian American can have the #1 song in the world referencing some Asian shit, like not having to hide it.
So what is that community like? The Asian singing, the Asian rapping or Asian singing community that you've experienced?
It's fairly small. It's like you will know someone who knows someone, and it will connect you to like the entire, like, Aquafina, the day that I recorded A-OK, like, she had been in the studio the night before. And yeah, like, so it's pretty tight knit. And I would like to say everyone's pretty supportive of each other, which is great. But I think also there is a level of competition just because Asians haven't really broken out into the hip hop scene. So people support each other, but then deep down inside, me included, everyone's like, oh, I want to be the one to make it. I don't think there's necessarily undercutting, but that's the mentality. I think in
it's kind of more competitive.
Yeah.
It's not like undercutting. It's not like, again, I love Nike. I'm wearing a Nike polo right now, but like I've heard, like, you know, when I was working for Nike, like, it's a competitive environment that they will actually step on you to get ahead. Yeah. I don't think that's how.
I don't know, but maybe I think that's just kind of how the music industry, the entertainment is in general too. So maybe it is to an extent competitive. Maybe I'm naive. I do feel like in LA, I definitely had friends that were in kind of that music scene, but I don't know. I didn't really love being a part of it. I kind of like doing my own thing. I think it comes from the whole introvert thing. Like, I don't really go to studios to record, mostly because it's expensive, but also because I just like being in the comfort of my own home and doing things by myself. And maybe that's a reason why I didn't get as far as maybe I wanted to, but I just enjoyed kind of doing shit by myself.
Do you regret that decision?
At this point, no. If I could see into the future and say, oh, if you had gone to this one studio session, you would be huge right now, then yeah, maybe I'd feel some type of way about it. But that's life. Like, I don't really regret anything that's happened so far in my life because I'm decently happy with where I am right now.
So you're an introvert that likes to record music at home, but then when you record your music videos, not just like A-OK, but Day Job, I believe.
Day Job, yeah.
You had to be in front of a camera. I mean, you're in front of a camera right now, but this is not as to the level you use probably. So, how did you kind of shift that?
I think that's what you'll find with more introverts than you'd think, and like with comedians and stuff, is they can be relatively reserved off camera, but like when I get on stage, that's like, okay, I can turn this on. When I get in front of a camera, I'm like, okay, I can turn this on. Like, and if you see me out, like with friends, like I enjoy like dancing and stuff. Like I think when time is appropriate, I am very comfortable taking center stage. It's just not always like that. But for me personally, there is no feeling like being on stage. It's one of my favorite things to do is perform. And so I can always bring a lot of energy for that regardless.
So then the Music Matters to Me concert you did in Singapore back in 2019.
Yep.
Just going in front of those people. I mean, even if you like bring in the hype, bring in energy, there's got to be a little bit of like questionability or just a little bit of like reserves.
Yeah, especially Music Matters. Like I did a bunch of shows there. Some were in really small venues. Some were slightly bigger. Some had people. Some were like really pretty empty. So that's something though that I learned early on, is that it is a bonus when you're on stage and everybody is rocking with you, and like you can feel the energy. Like that is like the best feeling. But I learned to fall in love with even the feeling of just performing to like an empty crowd. As awkward as it is, like you gotta, to be a good performer, you have to have experience with those kinds of shows, because that's when you truly learn how to perform. If I'm performing in like Brooklyn, New York, in some like dive bar, there's like 3 people in the audience. If I can get those 3 people hype, if I can somehow transfer my energy to them, then I will have no problem doing it to a big group of people, right? So it's learning to embrace that and like overcome that obstacle of like the awkwardness of performing to 1 or 2 people. I think that made me fall in love with performing, rather than falling in love with other people like liking my music, like a big group. Because you'll see every once in a while like performers that people won't necessarily be visibly rocking with their music, and like they take that personally, and you see them either like crawl within themselves, or you see them like try to blame the audience, and that's never a good look. So I really, really just like the act of performing and like sharing my music, whether it's with 2 people or like 200 or 1,000.
Yeah. So you get off the stage of Singapore, you get all the congratulations, you get back to your room. Yeah. What's the first thing you do?
I mean, okay, it depends on the performance, but honestly, usually after performances, I just want to chill. Yeah. Like maybe I'll like go out and celebrate, but interestingly enough, like one of my favorite shows of all time, I used to host like this yearly show where I would like bring in my friends that were artists. We'd call it Flannel Day, and the second year we did it was my last year in New York, and it was amazing. It was everything that I had hoped it would be and more. And then the next day I woke up in my room and I was like actually pretty depressed, because it was like, oh, I did this really cool thing. Like a lot of people came. This wasn't just a show with like friends and family. It was like literally people that knew my music came. Like we had a great time. Mm-hmm. And I think after a performance like that, you expect everything to be different. Like you expect the next day to wake up and like you have a record deal. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, you're like, this was it. This was like the next step.
Yeah. And then it was like, oh no, like everything's the same. Like you are going out to buy your own coffee and you have work the next day and you're like a little hungover. Like, yeah. So usually like, because I expend so much energy on the shows, I like am usually a little bit like, you know, a little bit burnt out to an extent. But again, that was during a time in my life where I was really, really always trying to move forward with music. Now I think if I did a performance, like I would have the time of my life and there wouldn't be as much pressure the next day. I think I could truly enjoy it.
Yeah, because I feel like for you, for example, like let's say you get back from Singapore, and then you're like, oh man, they're gonna like know me because everyone's on social media and it's gonna be great. But then, you know, that reality hits.
And like that didn't happen, right? So
they're like, who the hell are you? And
yeah.
How do you deal with who's the first person you talk to when you are feeling a little bit depressed, or you're just like questioning your decisions that you have made that got you where you are today?
Honestly, with music, it was probably honestly my therapist. I didn't really talk to too many people about it. Just because I don't know. Because I think that I am a pretty good therapist for myself. I think that I can talk myself through a lot of these things better than maybe some other people can anyway. And 2, I thought maybe other people couldn't necessarily relate. I'm sure there are people that can relate, but I just felt like nobody could at the time. So I didn't really talk to anyone. I would just take whatever time I needed to relax and then get back to work.
Okay.
It was always my mindset.
Okay.
Yeah.
So nothing really stuck with you past, let's say 48 hours or something like that.
Yeah, to me, maybe it's that Asian mentality, but I'm like, hey, if I'm not where I want to be, I just need to work harder.
Yeah.
So I think that did burn me out a little bit, but I also think it's a decent mindset to have, honestly.
It's not bad.
As long as you don't.
It does suck sometimes because, like, at least I know I want to, like, relish in the excitement of, like, oh, I just had this great experience.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's like, what's next?
Yeah, it's always, what's next? And it makes me wonder if, let's say, I got to a point where I was able to make enough money from doing music full time that I could quit my job. To me right now, that's like where I would truly be happy, right? But would I still have that what's next mindset until the end, right? So I was also thinking about that.
You're a young guy. Like, did anyone ever approach you about, oh, hey, come meet this other guy who can help you become an entrepreneur and help you get all this money, retire, and why work hard when you can just...
Yeah.
I was like, good God, dude, leave me alone.
Yeah, and even in the music industry, like, there's so many people that come to me like, yo, like, I can manage you, I can do blah, blah, and you're like, oh, yeah, like, what can you do? And, like, they just have absolutely no plan.
No.
So maybe that's another thing that really just forced me to work by myself, was like, I think I can do everything that these people are telling me they can do for me, and I don't have to pay them, and I think I have a better understanding of my own product than they do.
Yeah.
The only downside is that it's very possible to burn yourself out doing all that work.
Yeah, I mean, I can relate with you on that. I mean, we were talking earlier how like my releasing schedule is like stretched out more because I have a life I want to live. I'm almost 30. It's like I want to be able to, enjoy the end of my 20s, which is, again, I feel old saying.
Yeah. No, I mean, I am on the latter half of my 20s too. There is a balance. And again, even in that hip hop KR interview and like interviews that I used to do, I very much preached, like, if you want to make a hobby like podcasting or music or acting, like, if you want to make that, if you want to monetize that, if you want to make that a living, you really got to treat it like a job and do it even when you hate it, do it when you love it, like, do it when you're not feeling inspired. Like, I preached that, and I still do believe in that, but then I also do believe that caused me to burn out. Right before I started applying to grad school, it just stuff it was really stressful. I was like, dude, I don't know how much longer I can do this. And when I applied for grad school, I did not touch music for like 6-7 months. Like, first time that's ever happened. And then when I finished applying, I didn't really feel the urge to go back to it right away. Like, I only started getting back into it maybe 3-4 months ago. So I think the idea of burnout was very real, because I got back into it and I was super inspired and I just finished this album. So there's a balance between treating it like a job, but like, you got to balance it with taking a break from it every once in a while so that you stay inspired.
Yeah. And
then what I will say with that is, now that I don't really see it as a future career path, right? Now that I see it as a hobby, it is much more enjoyable again.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Pressure's off.
I can just kind of fuck around and experiment. And sometimes experimenting will lead you to become even more inspired. And I think a few songs on this album were the product of me just screwing around.
Yeah.
And some of my favorite songs have come out of that. So it's a balance. I feel like people in every industry are going to tell you, like, oh, do this, do that. There's not a single formula. Like, a lot of it is luck. A lot of it is working super hard. And then a lot of it is also not working super hard and like relaxing everyone. Like, it's just, it's a crapshoot in a sense, I guess. Yeah.
So are you retiring from music?
No, I think I'll still release stuff every once in a while.
Okay.
And the thing is, like, I was never in it. So I'm not Kanye. I'm not fucking, like, I feel like I can't say the word retire because I was never really in it as a job.
Yeah.
I will just be spending less time focusing on it. If I have something that I would like to release, like, sure, I'll put it on Spotify. I won't put a whole marketing campaign or video shoot behind it. But
yeah,
yeah,
it's more leisurely, which is
more
nice.
leisurely. Yeah.
Get to really, because that was my mindset behind like stretching out to like every other week. It's like, okay, Albert's episode just released. I don't want to like just blast it for like, I use blast in like good terms. Like I'm gonna put it all over social media for 1 week and then move on to the next. It's like, you have a life story that should be relished and that should be like, I don't want to say exploited, but just like
exploit me.
It should be used to like, for more than a week. So 2 weeks, I feel like that's much better to really get people to turn on to the episode. So you taking a break from music. Now what, you going to grad school?
Yeah.
How you feel about that?
I'm excited. It's a little scary not making money anymore, but I think I've budgeted pretty well. Business school, I think, will set me up for the career path that I want. Slightly more creative career path. I'm sure I'll meet lots of cool people. I heard it's a lot of fun, and I'm paying for it, so I'm gonna try to work as hard as I can and get the most out of it that I can. Like, I'm not gonna half-ass it. So,
do you still have that mindset from when you had that conversation with your mom? I know it's been a long time, probably, but it's like, I feel like sometimes those conversations do stick with me a little bit longer than it really should be.
I think definitely, like, I am more comfortable making my own decisions now, and I think that's caused me to make decisions that I am more likely to stay committed to. This just happens to be a decision that kind of aligns with what they want as well, but it is ultimately my decision. I think the reason that I made this decision is also just sort of my priorities have shifted. Like, in the last 2-3 years, I'm like, okay, well, I'm nearing 30. One of the things in my life I want to have is like a family and some stability. And yeah, maybe if I kept grinding with music until I was 35, I could get a hit and like eventually make it. But by the time I'm 35, I'd like to have a family and like be more settled down. I kind of grew out of that whole like, I want to have the fame and like be touring and all that stuff. Like, no, if I can make some side money, like producing for somebody else or writing a song here and there, like I'll gladly take that. Like, that's fine. But my priorities have sort of shifted.
Yeah, I'm like that too. Cause when I get to college, I was just like, okay, I'm going to go into journalism. I want to be on TV. I want to talk about sports, NFL, and now, 3-4 years post college, 5 years. Yeah. 5 years. 2016 is when I graduated. I could do math. Okay. Yeah. I could do math. Now I'm just like, I'm really enjoying just like talking with you, for example, and getting your story out there and just, having this be a hobby and, if it catches on, awesome. If it doesn't, I don't really care.
Yeah. And like, I think young people, because I used to look at people that made the same decision and be like, oh, quitters. You guys are quitters. Yeah. You guys are quitting on your dreams.
Yeah.
And now I'm in that position where I'm sure people will think that. And to me, it's like, yeah, you can think that, but I genuinely am happier. Like, my priorities genuinely have shifted. Like, that shit happens in life. Like, you adapt to those things and you don't necessarily do it out of like you don't necessarily choose the path because like it's like the only way to do it. You choose it because you're like, I think this is better for me.
Yeah.
And I think that's sort of where I am right now.
Some people will disagree, but it's like, it's not, they're fine to share their opinion, but it's my life.
Yeah. Cause for me, like some people will disagree because they have the capacity and they have the desire to maybe be a struggling artist until they're 35 and then get that one hit. And then from 35 onward, they're set. Like some people, but I just assessed my life and I was like, I don't think I can do that. So
I'm also finding myself less like, because I would get worked up if, like, let's say you decide to continue with music and I just you struggling, but you still want to. I would get like upset, like, dude, why are you doing this? But now it's like, I think if I hear you doing something that makes you happy, I just want to like support you.
Right. Yeah. I think that somewhere along the way, sometimes people will pursue music because it makes them happy, because it's like their escape, it's their hobby, it's their therapy, they're good at it. And somewhere along the way, it stops becoming that. But because they're so committed to it, they keep telling themselves that the only way that they can be happy is by pursuing that one dream.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you saw the movie Soul, the Pixar movie.
I know of it. I haven't seen it.
I mean, not to spoil it, but like it centers around that concept of putting all your eggs in one basket and not experiencing the rest of life. Like, I know I said there's no other feeling like performing on stage for me, but there's a lot of things in life that come pretty damn close.
Yeah.
And like I want to experience those things, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
So you're going to graduate school. Have you picked out a major yet, or the field you want to study?
Yeah, so I want to go into marketing, and directly after school, probably work in a more traditional marketing role for like a tech company or like a CPG company. But then eventually I would like to find myself back in media and entertainment, doing some sort of content marketing function or marketing management. Like for a Netflix or a Hulu or something would be dope. I
mean, you're going to California. I'm sure you can.
Yeah, and
literally throw a rock and hit one of those companies.
Yeah, a big reason why I chose to go to UCLA. And it's funny because people ask me if I want to go back into music on the business side, and like, not really. I think I would rather go into TV and film. I'm pretty passionate about like representation in media. I think that it's important. And you see that there's more Asian representation in media today. And like, I would like to see that continue, not just for Asian Americans, but just like underrepresented groups. So to be involved with something like that, I think would be my dream job.
So then when you got to not like fully direct, but basically direct A-OK, how'd that feel? Because I mean, just hearing you say you want to do this, and then you got to actually do it without you actually knowing you wanted to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I mentioned this in the Hip Hop KR interview with Sai, that like I didn't know I directed the video until my friend Zach, who like,
actually has a director title.
And like was a cinematographer and stuff. Like, he told me, no, you like directed a lot of that because you came up with the idea and like you executed while we were on set. And that's why like I'm looking, I think, to go into just entertainment in general and like TV and film, is because I think a lot of the stuff I know about music and like connecting with an audience can be applied in other mediums as well. I think I just have, or I hope I have, just an ability to know what makes people click and then how to communicate that vision. Because it came pretty natural to me. Like, from when I wrote A-OK to when I was thinking about concepts for the video, like it was all pretty seamless. And like, with the Darker Liquor video too, like those ideas were born out of the song, but ultimately they were all born out of some sort of vision I had, right? So I don't know if in school I'm going to learn more about being able to transfer that vision into a different medium, but I think I have some sort of foundation there.
Yeah, because I went to school, journalism and communications. You can see it right there. So after that class, I met one of my former guests who's also a photographer. He's also got the angles down, and that was one of my first things, because like there was a song, "Love on the Brain" by Rihanna. There was like a line there where it's like she says, "I keep running." Something about running. I can't remember exactly. Probably because I don't want to get copyrighted. But like that one line sprouted this whole idea of like doing a cover music video for that song. And then I haven't done it because obviously there's COVID, and then I was like trying to figure out all the logistics. I'm just like, I don't know. But it's like, it's like I want to kind of tell a story using that song, because I feel, it's just, it seems like a fun idea. It's challenging. Why not? I think
it's always fun transferring something from one medium to another. Which is why I like to be involved in a lot of my music video planning and directing stuff.
There you go, man. So you get that, you're going towards marketing. Do you have any, like, when it comes to this album, obviously it'll be out by the time this episode or your interview airs, what's your marketing plan with this one?
I don't have a huge one. I mean, I've done just kind of all social media marketing stuff. Like, when I say I like to do stuff by myself, like even for like this lead single that's coming out today, It's called Sport. And for like the little promo teaser vid, I literally went to like parks around my house in Beaverton, Cedar Mill area and like filmed different like basketball courts and like tennis courts and stuff, and like just put together like a small thing there. Because I don't really have a marketing budget for this album. I just kind of want to come out with it, and then just to sort of see what happens. Like we're contacting some blogs and like publications, and I have some hopeful connects to Spotify that could hopefully get me playlisted. Like we'll see, but if this were a year or two ago, yeah, I'd probably shoot some music videos and pay for some Instagram, Facebook ads and push it, but I just don't have the time or money to do that right now.
Priorities.
Yeah, priorities.
Theme of this episode.
Yeah.
All right, Albert. So, as I like to wrap up my interviews by asking a couple questions from this packet of 170 hypothetical questions.
Okay.
So, I actually, as I was hanging out, kind of like anxious about you getting here and then doing this whole interview, I forgot to choose a couple questions, so I'm just going to shoot from the hip.
Do random, yeah.
Let's do this. Let's see. There was one. Okay. If you were tasked with making school more fun, but still had to be effective at teaching students, what would you change?
Make school more fun, but still effective. Incorporate stories and anecdotes more into your teaching. I think just like make things truly relatable for the students, I guess, and show them how it relates to the real world, I guess. Yeah, that's my answer.
So as people see, you got the Iron Man, you got the X-Men behind you, and then people can't really see behind me from my angle, but I got a lot of comic book posters. I would teach a course on Easter egg hunting in Marvel movies.
Yeah, like that would be an awesome, and if you can make the subject like that, I think there's still ways to incorporate like curriculum into something like that. Yeah, I think totally. I think that would be a dope class. And I think the reason I say that is like it comes from my sort of songwriting philosophy in that I don't think audiences will connect as much with a songwriter that's super preachy, like that's like in your face talking about something. I mean, there are successful musicians that do it, but I think people love music because they can interpret it kind of how they want.
Yeah.
And share that experience. So if you can teach someone without them really knowing that like they're being taught, like sort of a wax on, wax off type thing, like if you teach through telling stories and like relating things to people's lives instead of just being like, here's A, B, C, D, then I think it'll be more effective and it'll be more enjoyable.
So speaking of that, actually, a little side question, because I also listen to some of your music with my girlfriend, and we listen to that song Asian Glow.
Yeah.
Okay, so Asian Glow, there's two different kinds of meaning.
Yeah, and that was the whole thing behind it, and like that was Phil. My friend Phil wrote the hook and had that whole idea behind it. I really just contributed a verse and some other stuff, but yeah, that was the whole thing about it, was like using the whole Asian glow, like, oh, you get red when you drink, but also like, embrace that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And plus, like, you glow when you see someone you're interested in.
When you're interested, and you glow when you're, like you glow up when you, yeah. So there's so many meanings to it. Yeah.
Tricky SOB. Okay, so what movie-worthy heist would you pull if you knew in the end you would get away with it? Like, what would be the item you'd try to steal?
I was at the Brooklyn Museum a month ago, and they had a cause exhibit, and there was a giant painting of like a cause character in the water. I thought that was pretty cool, and I think I commented to my friend, "Oh, I want this one." So I'd probably try to steal that. That's just the last thing that I saw.
I watched not recently, but I watched the Army of the Dead from Zack Snyder on Netflix, where it's like a heist movie in the zombie apocalypse.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
It's actually not as scary as you would think, because it's zombies, but it was just like, I think if I was to do a heist type thing, I would not do that because I don't want to get bit at all.
You don't want to add zombies to the mix.
Yeah. Add a little more tricky, difficulty to it all. But
yeah.
I think
I'm a rule follower, man. I don't steal. So.
Oh man, but okay. So Albert, where can the people find you on social media and your work?
Yeah, so I'm on Spotify, Apple Music, all that stuff under Flannel Albert, FLANNEL space ALBERT. My Instagram handle is also Flannel Albert. I spend most of my time on there, so you can find me there.
There you go.
Yeah.
Twitter? No Twitter?
I have a Twitter, Flannel Albert. I just don't ever update it. Yeah.
I'll still put it in the descriptions. Why not? Let's get you some more followers.
Yeah, like, why not? Just follow me everywhere. Yeah.
Every single spot. Yeah. Listen to his music. His newest album, Summer 2017, is over.
Yep.
Out probably a long time from now.
See, yeah, but it's out July 30th. Sport comes out tonight, which is, am I allowed to say what the day is today, or does it break the illusion? Yeah, today is July 20th. So
July 19th, buddy.
Oh, no. Oh, it is July 19th. Yeah. It's still coming. It's coming out tonight. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sticking around until the end of the episode. If you like what you heard or watch and would like more episodes from Keoni Chats, the show can be found on all podcast platforms and YouTube under Keoni Chats. If you want to keep in the loop on other creative content releases, you can follow KC Media on Instagram and Twitter under KC Media 13. And then on Facebook, it'll be under Conlu K Media. So if you'd like to be a guest, email me at kcmedia13@yahoo.com. Tell me your story. I'd love to get you on the show. So until the next episode, everyone, please take care.